announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
Over. CBR Street Gang, over by standing by, over.
Okay, let's get the microphone test out of the way here before we get rolling. Go ahead and let me know in the various chats if you can hear me okay. I did cut the music a little early there. Sorry, buddy. But yeah, go ahead and let me know if you can hear me in the chats, and then we'll get started here. All right, so it looks like everybody can hear me okay. Then we are going to get rolling here. Provided I can actually pick out the right things on the mixer. Hello and welcome to Market Madness Technical Analysis here on Wednesdays. And this is a live stream on Landy's Crypto Corner. I am your host, Landy, and we are going to take a look at Bitcoin to start today. We'll also be taking a look at Dixie, traditional markets, and gold. But we can see here on Bitcoin that if you watched yesterday's Bitcoin in 60 seconds, or maybe one of them in one of the prior days, you'll note that Bitcoin has come down to almost exactly the areas of interest that we had previously spoken about on a breakdown of this 27.2 monthly here. So below 27.2, Bitcoin has had some room down to the basis band, and this close open at around $27,000. It did bounce in the lower term timeframes there, but if that area is lost, I had mentioned that I'd be looking to the weekly at around 26,750, to the lower first at around 26.5 to 26.6. And we have, we've hit those major targets to the downside here. And, this would constitute like the first major downside target area, hit between 26,750 to 26.5 or so by the lower first. And, there's going to be a lot made about, everything's falling apart, this and that. This is completely expected when hitting overhead resistance like this by the upper second standard deviation. And the bias is that when you lose the upper first, you're generally going to test in and around the basis band. All of these wicks were towards the basis band. That does technically count, as the basis band has been slightly underneath this monthly support. So the next big area beneath the basis band there at around $27,000, it's a little above $27,000, but roughly this high side close open even, then that would be the weekly here at 26,750 to this 26.5 close open structure here. And, there is a little bit more room to downside before it hits another close open. And that would be from late August at around 26.4 to 26.450, depending on your exchange. Of course, then there is this 26.2 to 3 close open. And then, of course, the low side structure at 26.2. Below there, we go and we go and test the weekly here at 26K. This is also the weekly stochastic momentum pivot. And it is a fully confirmed cross to the upside. So if we did see this pivot tested and it holds up, then that's a decent mean reversion on the daily. Weekly still prepping. But below there, I would favor a run to the wick lows over here at 25.5, back to this daily support at 25.1 to 24.8. So this is going to be something to really pay attention to if we do see this area where Bitcoin is currently trading fall apart. And that does include, bounces to lower highs on lower term timeframes that then break this lower first, and or the lower first, bulls losing it there and the bears pushing it down further. So that is going to do it for the recap of where we are at. Let's jump into the lower term timeframes here. This is the 15-minute chart, and we are going to reference the volume map that we built from the move up from $26,000. And I want to recap this because you can pull all the different spikes of volume in here on the lows or on the highs. It does not matter. once you build your volume map, and you can take the highs up there because if it broke out of the highs, it's continuation of trend. But in this case, we're mapping volume and the highest volume that is setting either a high or a low. And technically, this would count on these 2 spike highs up there. We opted to call this a deviation because they paled in comparison to this guy here, this big bar here, and that was holding price up. And now that it has broken down, you can see that mean reversion or revert back to this consolidation base over here has kicked in. Now, from the move up, we did mark the lows because that's where the swing fail was set. Then we had some lower volume highs, came back. We put in a big high up here. That volume area is marked, came back down, mean reverted to support, to another high, came back down, found support on this previous high volume structure, consolidated for a bit, found some support on the high side closes here, and then blast off, came back down and tried to find support on this high structure here. Once this was lost and then of course retested, it did come down to the next high side structures from the move up, tried to pause there, and now has found it as resistance. It did get quite choppy through there. Lots of volume in there, lots of demand, lots of likely liquidations, and stops hit. And now we can see with Bitcoin on the underside of that particular high, the range that we are working in. And that would be the 26,675 range. You can even say 26,800. So we could take the top side wick high, which is the white, yellow is the close, and then we've got a white and yellow. So this is going to act as decent overhead resistance. So from 26,800 down to the next big area at 26,288, and the close there coming in at 26,250 here for the 15-minute. Of course, below there we've got 26,150 or 160. I'm sorry, that's 26,146. I was reading that wrong. And then about 26,100, and then we've got the actual low there at 26K, or in this case on spot price 25,997. So this there's no reason for me to mark any other volume structures within this until we see a breakdown or a breakout. So a breakdown would be obviously dropping the $26,000 area, and the breakout would be back to the deviation high, and that is all the way up there at $28,000. So this is, I get a lot of questions about this. Well, I want to mark this one because there was a high volume candle right here, and then there was a high volume candle over here. But you notice something. We already have the volume map, and you notice that it did not honor that particular volume-based area. It did for a short period of time. But if you were to take this wick, it's still wicked past, and then you can mark this guy, and then that's the breakdown. But in this case, realistically, once it lost this and then retested up here, lost it again, retested, deviation, it's right back down to the next big volume area. And this is going to be consistent the entire way through. Now, you will get deviations, but you should keep your volume map static. And if you are going to temporarily mark things, you can temporarily mark them in a different color. That's my suggestion. That's the way that I would. That's the way that I do it, if need be. But you can see even the highest volume candle on this move down is in between this volume-based area, so it's already, in my eyes, marked. And when we started to lose this area up here at $27,000. And it deviated down below and then back above, lost it again, and then pumped up and found resistance and then lost it again. That's pretty much you're like, hey, we're right back in this zone. This is the zone we're playing in. 27,074 to 26,775, 26,800 area, and down to this area here at 26,675. And then below there, we then mark down where we are looking. Now, if this area is regained at 26,800, then we're back playing in this volume-based range. And yes, you will have the most recent structure act as resistance on the way back up. You'll have, so that's where I would mark that stuff in, where I'd mark that stuff in a different color. In this case, I like using trend lines to do it. So there's this low, which was fairly decent volume. There was this guy. It's so close to the overhead resistance now that it's kind of not worth it. But you could take these two areas from the high volume candle to the deviation swing low that also put in a bit more volume than what we had seen. And then this guy's stuck in between support and resistance. So realistically, the only other place to mark is this low, because back below this low, and it's probably going to head down some more. But I would always mark it in a different color. And generally speaking, I'm only doing this to illustrate a point to you guys. I don't always have these on unless I want to reference it on the chart for others when sharing my chart. So typically, my chart just looks like this after the volume map is built. So nothing doing until we are nothing new to build, rather, until we're below 26K or at minimum above 28K. And yes, if you want to mark these highs up here, you can. It's not the cleanest set of highs, but you can mark those highs up there if you'd like as well, because technically speaking, it was higher volume put in on a high that produced a swing fail pattern. So that's going to be the little lower term time frame recap. Let's go ahead and bounce out to the daily here and take a look. I'll turn off volume. We will turn on Bollinger Bands. And let's turn off the volume map here. All right. So bouncing off the lower first, we've already discussed this. Let's go ahead and take a look at where it is on the 2-day chart. Oh, look at that. I had mentioned that the 2-day chart looked like it was setting up for a bit of ranging activity. And Bitcoin is settling in right on a major area, at least in the lower term timeframes for now, at the basis band at around 26,667. Jeez, what a number. Anyway, if it does lose this area on a close, which will be closing today, generally speaking, I'd be looking to the next low side structure at 26,223 and that lower first, which just so happens to be around the $26,000 weekly pivot, that $26,000 level that put in the low that produced the current move up. So that's this wick low over here. Not too bad. I suspect that we are seeing momentum begin to pivot on the 2-day, and it's going to confirm a cross to the downside here. Let's go ahead and put on the Stoke that you guys can actually use, because it is a free one. Let's look at that daily, by the way. So daily momentum pivot's going to be at 27,900 or so. The 2-day is at 28,375, 376 area. So basically 28.4, right around the highs on a close. And let's look at the 3-day here. Oh, I already have an arrow way over here. Interesting. So you'll also notice that on the daily, is it the daily? Yeah, I thought there was bearish divergence here. No, there's not. Technically, there is not. On the 2-day, there is not, because that was a lower high. Yep. So it would just be on the 3-day. We see a continuation drive. And note, we had previously talked about this. Until the bands flatten out and start to consolidate, this is a retest of overhead resistance here, and then back down to the basis. So the basis, again, is coming in right where Bitcoin wicked into, around that 26.6 to 26.5 area. Below there, generally looking to the lower first again, and that's at 25,800 in this case on the 3-day. And, possibly a swing of the low again if it gets below there down to the lower second at that 24.8, 25.1 area. And yeah, but if it can hold the basis, looking okay. This still has 1 day and 6 hours to go for the close here. And what's the momentum pivot? 26,187. So 26.2. That's also an area of interest on the daily chart. The 4-day. Come on, load. There we go. Yeah, 4-day bands, upper bands were headed down. Basis still with a negative slope. We do see that this is going to be closing with today's candle and the 2-day, of course. But losing the basis gives us the bias of the lower first, which is $26,000, that weekly pivot. Below there, we're looking to the lower second. And this is coming into a weekly area at around 24,500. And that weekly area is this area here, 26,669. Nice. Sorry, I'm juvenile at heart. 24,300 to 24,500 is this weekly down here. And there is a weekly just below that at 23.7 to 24K. And let's go ahead and take a look. Yep. And we have 23.3 at that lower third. I highly doubt that Bitcoin would get there, at least first pass, but you never know. In this case, nothing too crazy going on here. If it can hold that lower first, if it gets to it, it still remains to be seen if it can get to it. But if it does, then I would generally be looking, for a bit of a range between the lower first at 26K and the basis and the mid 27s, upper $27,000 area. Of course, if it does lose it, then I'm looking back to the low side structure overall. That 25.5, 25.1 to 24.8 area that you always hear about on the Bitcoin in 60 seconds videos. Now, the momentum pivot for the 4-day is at $26,000 as well. So this is going to be a pretty important area for the bulls to hold. Should price get there and or at least not see any closes below there. This number is also going to tick up if Bitcoin closes above it today. The 5-day does still have some downside room after tapping on the basis band and swinging above it a bit. The lower first, of course, is at 26,100, falling right in the bucket there at that 26. You can kind of take the downside of the range as $26,000 to where Bitcoin is trading now at 26.5 to 6. And if we do look below there, the lower first is still bracketing basically the lows here, but it is coming in again at that 24,500 region, just above that weekly at 24.3. So I would give price room if it did get down there to see if it could break, or if it holds rather at 24.5 to 24.3. And then if that area does not hold up, and especially if 24K and 23.7 does not hold up as well, then we're looking down to that monthly at 23.3. When looking at the weekly here, what's the 5-day pivot? I should probably note that for you. It is 26K. Go figure. Pretty pivotal area to the downside, huh? And then we've got the weekly here, which is 26K for that momentum pivot. Of course, the lower first right there at the same area that the 5-day is at, and that's around the 26.1 to 2 area. So below there, general bias on the weekly would be down to the lower second, which is actually coming in right at, that's basically right at the weekly support area here. It's a little bit above it at 24,300 and 88. So basically 24.4 to 24.5. That's where we're kind of getting that range between this weekly at 24.3 to 24.5. I would give it some room. All right. Not the best look on the weekly if it closes like this either. We've got lower low close, lower high close. We would expect a run of the lows at minimum. I'm not gonna call for the doom shot like I see many until I see how price reacts over the next remainder of this week and then next week. So, all right, I think that's gonna do it for Bitcoin. Before I actually jump off of Bitcoin here, let me Let me see if anybody has any questions in the chat. Does anybody have any questions about this before I head to take a look at Dixie? Because we are going to look at Dixie today as well. Okay. I don't think so. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at Dixie now. If we were going off of what traditional markets are doing and what Dixie's doing, you would think that Bitcoin would be going up, but you have to look at the chart in front of you. And the chart in front of us has been telling us that if Bitcoin didn't break out, it was probably going to break down and or go sideways. And in this case, it was a bit of a breakdown. Structure is still intact. Now Dixie is here on the weekly. I think that this did put in, at least a top for a little while. This area still could get run, but if we do see, it did bounce off of the 105.55. It did break down below the 105.65 area that we were talking about on Monday, but in this case, it did not close there. So, and when we're looking at this, we're looking at it as if it closes below. That's the criteria for a further move down. Now, it did get there under there in the lower term timeframes, and it wicked under there and then follow through. So we did see the follow through in the lower term timeframes, but it got a nice close in there. This might be short term bouncy, but until it regains the basis band at around 105.96, basically 106. It's today's wick high at 106. If it can get above 106, and especially the open from Tuesday's candle at 106.03 on a close, then I'd generally be looking, 106.25 to the upper first at around 106.50 to 60. If it does find this area as resistance, then we're looking down to the lower first here, somewhere around 105.40 to this 105 even here. Below there, lower second at around 104.80 to 104.69. Nice. And that's basically where I'd be looking on the daily. Still downside pressure below 106.97 on the 1 day time frame. 12 hours should be a little bit further down. Yeah, 106.08. What you'd want to be looking for if you're bearish on Dixie is for a bearish momentum shift. So it does get a momentum shift, but gets sold into. So bearish bounce. And that's where I say you have to leave the door open that Dixie could play back up to its local highs. And in this case, 106.91 on the 2 day, still pressure down. 3 day is going to be 107.03. 4 day, we're looking at 107.16, and then 5 day and weekly should be the same, unless they update at different times. And that's 107.03. And of course, the weekly should be there as well. Yes. All right. So, this is all facing down. And if we go even higher term time frame, this is only an initial cross down on the weekly. You want to see basically a fully confirmed cross to the downside. This is a weekly signal. We need to see the weekly high confirmed in order to really consider this valid. And it might get there, but realistically, it'll throw a technical high on the weekly on any closes below this wick low at 105.95. But you want to see closes below where the wick low just came in at 105.57. And in this case, that's where we start looking at the lower first again at that 105, 30 to 40 region. We called that out on the daily to 105. In this case, it's 105.09. And then below there down to 104.69. And if it did start to fall apart from there, then we're looking at 103.5 on the weekly. Which is lining up with the base, where the basis band is lining up with a support resistance zone. So that's the outlook on Dixie. I do think it could bounce a little bit here and there. It could play around the highs at that, but generally I'd be looking for it to be putting in a local high structure on the weekly here pretty soon. When looking at traditional markets, we have, let's go ahead and look at Dow. All right, so Dow did get up to this this low side structure. It did swing it right into the gap here, right around this local rejected high. This push up to this is basically the area that it's got to get above. This push to this gap up open, which was on a Friday. So we saw futures trade up quite a bit and retest. Market opened and retested and then down, and now we've mean reverted to basically fill that area around the basis band of the Bollinger Bands here. Nothing too crazy. I think that this still has a high probability of coming back down to at minimum the lower first if it cannot push through this area, and especially anything below this last lower high on a close at basically 34,900 or so. I would, that's 1,200 points away. I would generally be looking for it to still try to play around these lows a little bit longer. Nice bounce. Lower first is sitting at 33,300, and lower second is kind of where I'd want to see things end up. If it's going to hold, that's where I think the best opportunities are for the long side of the trade, at around 32,765, provided if price did get there again, that it just swings this area and then bounces back off of that lower second standard deviation, as we are seeing confirmed cool down on BBWP. If it did close below, though, we would start to see expansion again. In this case, it can mean revert all the way back to the upper first at around 34,350 to that overhead resistance at 34,460 or so. And realistically, it doesn't do much except give Dow the chance to maybe try to build some higher low structure to work its way back up to this lower high by the upper second standard deviation at 34,900. Now, the daily is likely shifted to the upside, and it is 33,000. If we look at the 2-day momentum, it is also shifted to the upside, 33,160. It is currently trading above there. Does that close anytime soon? 1 day and 1 hour. We've got the 3-day. Should be starting to get the etchings, yeah. So this closes today. 33,500 is the pivot right now, but I do suspect that it may get an initial cross, and or that pivot is going to be, it's already above that pivot. So it might get either an initial cross or a fully confirmed cross all in one go. We'll have to evaluate and see on Friday when we have our next live stream. 5-day, we are still looking downside angled here, 34,440 basically, and then, this is the 4-day, 4-day is 34,440. The 5-day, we're looking at 34,650 or so, and that should be the same on the weekly. No, 34,500. So the 5-day did update before the weekly already, and that does mean that it is a little bit lower, but likely indicative of what the weekly pivot's going to be. So basically around that last rejected high, around 34,900 to 35,000. When looking at NASDAQ, well, NASDAQ actually had a much nicer buyback. Also, still doesn't do much below the upper second standard deviation at 15,400 to this last rejected high at 15.5. So pretty bog standard stuff. But I will say something encouraging for the bulls if they can hold the upper first. This is not the best candle look in terms of the doji up here, But if they can hold the upper first at 15,160, I would generally be looking for this to trade up a little bit more, maybe even to that upper second around 15,4. But I'd give it a bit of a range. It tested 15,250. If it does trade up again, so 15,3 to 4, somewhere around that upper second, and maybe if it gets aggressive, swings the high at 15.5. If it does put in a high here, however, that's going to be, on any closes below 15,000, I'd be looking right back to the basis, which is at 14,900, all the way down to 14,700 and the lower first here at 14,650. Below there, I'd be looking for, run right back to the lows, basically at that 14.4, 14.5 area by the lower second standard deviation. And let's go ahead and take a look. So the daily still got a little bit of upside room above 14,650. That is going to be somewhere around probably 14.7 or 8 at close today. 2-day did cross up 14,620, looking okay. 3 days looking to confirm a cross today. And that momentum shift is going to remain intact if it can close today above 14,880. Looking fairly good. There's still about 45 minutes to go in the session. So the 4-day still got some work to do, though. 15,260, which it did test today. And then, of course, we've got the 5-day at 15,530, the high, that rejected high up there. And actually, the weekly's at 15,400. So I would actually keep an eye again on this weekly. I know that we did cover this already, but on Monday, but keep an eye on that weekly as we come into Friday. SPY, we're looking at the daily momentum pivots 422. Oh, look, it regained the trend line. I don't trade trend lines, but it was confluent with this area right here at the support resistance zone when SPY was around it, and that's the only time I will look at a trend line. I've had it on the chart for a little while as SPY headed down towards it. So in this case, we did see right in that resistance closing right on it. The other day, swinging the basis band, a little bit different look as compared to NASDAQ. But in this case, if it can remain above the basis band and basically above 430, then I'd generally be looking up to the upper first. It did swing this gap a little bit, so I could give it some room, 437 to the upper first at around 440. Above there, I'd be looking to the upper second, somewhere around this this lower high, and that is coming in at 447 to 451. Basically, the highs up here at 452. If it does lose around 430, lower first is at 425, or I'd be looking past there to the lows again at 420 to around 415. I'd actually be looking a little bit lower structurally. But I think 420 might be a good place to hold. Isn't it funny? Always meme numbers. Bitcoin to 69,000, markets bouncing around 420. It's always landing on a 69 cent number. It's pretty. All the markets are a meme, is what I'm trying to tell you. 2-day, 424. So looking pretty good. And again, that's above the daily lower first standard deviation. So you want to see SPY hold that if you are bullish. 425 on the 2-day. 3-day is 430. Currently trading above that. And the 3-day is going to be closing with today's candle as a reminder. So that should confirm at minimum an initial cross to the upside. 4-day, we're looking at 443. So a little work to do on the 4-day. And we've got the 5-day should be a little bit different than the weekly, and that's 448. So basically around that rejected high. And then the weekly is at 446. So weekly, again, like I said, Monday, bounce off the lower second here. I'm generally looking back to the basis band, after bouncing off the lower second, regaining the lower first. Now, of course, this week is not over yet, so it does need to remain above around that 430 number. In this case, 431.55. And because it has an upside slope, I would give it like 432, as it is going to continue to tick up and maybe flatten out around that number, giving us a pretty clear, defined range, to be honest with you, from the daily weekly perspective. And then when we look at gold had a nice reclaim. Let's go ahead and analyze this a little closer here on the daily. So I'd mentioned it pushed above the 1858, and if it could close above there, then I'd be generally favoring a move to the basis band, and that is what we've seen. It did wick below, but it closed above, and then it headed up towards that basis band, which is currently coming in at 1879. So it came up just shy there at 1877. That's also right around this close open here as well. So it swung this kind of breakdown close open. Now, it's not really a recent breakdown, but it was this high over here. So there was the downtrend move. This was a high that was put in before the lows at 1800. So this is something that, I did point out to you guys, but I maybe didn't make it clear that you, on the way back up, you work from lows to highs when looking left. So it never really tested these lows through a wick around the close open here of that higher low. But the high here as resistance, it did get past it, even back tested it. And then you look at the next area in this doji, it rejected this next low over here. And then it is now right around this close open of the high side of that particular move down to big old W for winning on gold trades there to the upside on that higher low. In this case, if it can push past that area, which, at 1875, there is a high on a close. If it can push past there, then I would generally be looking, above the basis band back to the breakdown area at 1893. And above there, when I say generally, I'd be looking 1885 at the lows, to 1893 basically. Yeah, because you got 1885 on the lows, 1890 on the close, and then 1893 on that longer term support and wick low over here. Above there, I generally favor a move back to 1905, 1910, and then the upper first there at 1920. I would rather, for structural purposes, for really solidifying a low, I'd rather see gold come back down and try to hold support at the lower first. So if it does lose 1858, I would generally be looking back to the lower first at around 1840 to this close open here at 1830. So 1840 to 1830. Below there, I'd be looking down to 1800 basically by the lower second. Swing this low into that support. So that's gold had a nice move up. And this move got started, by the way, before things kicked off around the world here, as it seems to be getting pretty intense in various parts of the world. This was already painting the picture that it was at least going to try bounce, and unlike SPY, decided to disappoint me by not completely hitting my target on a wick. But that's okay. That's okay. As long as you're recognizing that happens on lower term time frames and you are not tied to the it hitting a very specific number, and you just trade and go with the flow, you'll make good money. Not financial advice, but it would be good financial advice if it were. Now, the 2-day regaining the lower second here would be a good thing. So if gold can, the lower first, after impulsing through the lower second and third, regain that lower second. We looked up to the lower first. That was the area that we just saw get tagged. Now we had an open, and if it can close above that lower first, and of course that 1858 resistance, and that it's trying to flip as support, at least in the lower term time frames, that is held up. And if that continues to hold up, then I'd generally be favoring a move back to somewhere around the basis overall. Of course, looking left, you take the wicks and the close, and we've got that 1890, and you can extend that even above this 1893 to that basis at around 1900. So in this case, it would be 1898, so just under 1900 by $2. Now, of course, that's not closing today, but and neither is the 3-day. Oh yeah, that's right, because Dixie and Gold open on Sunday. So in this case, when looking at momentum, we see that 1816 is the momentum pivot on the daily. So good, well above there right now. 1830 is the momentum pivot on the 2-day. The 3-day is 1867, and it's currently trading at 1873. So if it can on the 3-day regain this lower first standard deviation, which is basically right where it's trading at 1873. If it can regain that area, we should see, as the 2-day, 3-day are going to close at the same time. That'd be on Thursday's candle. So we can look at this on Friday and follow up. Then we should see that turn to the upside. But if it does close below, it should chase the pivot down to the lows anyway. So the number might be a little bit more palatable even on a pullback. So 1867. 4-day, we're looking at 1853. Very nice. That is also going to close on with Thursday's candle, and we'll review on Friday. And then, of course, the 5-day is at 1880. So $7 more if it can get there. This isn't closing until the weekend, which it's not going to close on the weekend. So we're looking to next week at this point for that one. On Sunday into Sunday's open, which is Monday's candle, we'll likely define that, and that's the same price pivot for the weekly. So, and the weekly, you will note, has a nice drive of hidden bullish divergence here, as does the 5-day, and the 4-day technically does. It's just too many bars for it to track. Yeah, 4-day does. That would also mean that the 3-day does as well. Yep, from this low over here. And does the 2-day? Does the 2-day? Yes, the 2-day also has bullish divergence. It is a continuation drive. It's not a very powerful drive. You want to see in trend. In trend bull divs. And if you're going to look for those on any pullback, scale midline for gold is going to be right here at 1880. So that was that's the weekly pivot, in fact. And the bearish control zone is 1847. So still quite a bit above that low side structure. So a retest of this area. Now, if it did get down to the SMA, though, that would be right back to the lows at 1808. Just shy of that 1804, 1800 area. So what am I trying to say? It could test that lower second on the daily, and it could come all the way down here, and it'd be a beautiful, beautiful, big old bull div. But in this case, until we see, 1858 start to break down, can't be looking that way. Got to look up. And I think that's going to do it for today's analysis. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Let me go ahead and, so that's going to do it for the bulk of the analysis today. Let me jump into the various chats and see what's going on here. We'll take a look at Bitcoin because, there is a downside move ongoing right now. Nice little bounce in the lower term time frames. Well, I say nice little bounce, but it's just a mean reversion play, of course, as this was a downside move. So let's go ahead and throw on. We can just leave it like this for right now. Let's get some music going so that I can cover for me reading the chats here. Okay. So let me go ahead and take a look at the guys over at the shop. What's up, guys? Yep. So for those that are not in, for those of you guys, which would be everybody else not in that chat, there's a few more guys that are going to be testing for their Series 57 this week. Congratulations on making it to scheduling day, and good luck. Good luck on your tests. Yeah. Cool. Is there one Series 24 as well? There is. Cool. All right, man. Good job. So you went the other route. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So you got the 20. Now you're going to go and get the 24. Awesome. Very, very, very good, man. Congratulations, guys. Good luck on your tests. And let me see. So let me go ahead and take a look over in YouTube. Whoa. There's a lot of chatting going on today. Hello, Bobby. Hello, Ivan. JR, how you doing? Cheryl. I see a few others in here. No, this is just an ongoing conversation between you guys right there. All right. I see that there's quite a few other people that are in the concurrent viewers portion of my analytics. If you'd like to be able to chat, I did change the chat over to be subscribers. So if you aren't subscribed and you'd like to chat, go ahead and subscribe for the content, of course, but you can also jump into the chat and ask questions as well. Let me take a look here. What is the series? These are FINRA exams. Series 24, 57, your SIEs, 6, 7, so on, 57, so on and so forth. Their industry, their financial regulation exams that they're basically exams that you need to pass to work in the industry on specific things at different trading firms. In many cases, they require that you have the proper training and certification, and then you can get licensed to do the financial work, whether it's market making or risk analysis or investments, money markets, stuff like that. I'm trying to see if there's any requests for coins in here because I'm only going to take like one or two. I'll take a look at here. Maybe a few more. We'll see. But I got, if you need tax person, you need to go hire a tax professional. TurboTax is not a tax professional. But if you're going to file your own taxes and you understand how to do it, it walks you through. But if you have questions, you need to contact a tax professional. You might be able to contact people there. Usually you pay more for it. And at that point, you might as well just go get a tax guy if it's simple stuff. EWT on KuCoin. Man, you're going down into the barrel of shit coins, huh? Back to Energy Web Token. Let's see. SLO? Slow? LOL? Well, I'm confused. Is that a coin? Made a new all-time low Energy Web Token. Made a new. Yeah, I kind of figured that it'd be Bobby making me look at just complete garbage today. Um, I saw your list. I paid attention. EWT on USDT. Looking at KuCoin here. Oh dear. Even the 15-minute looks terrible. Oh God. Oh no. And it's looking at expansion. If it closes below. God, what garbage. Like 90% of these things are not going to be. Give it like, even if they survive for another 2 or 3 years, 99.9% are going to be gone in about 10. If it closes below 162, it's probably headed for another leg down to no man's land, because it's just been down the whole damn time. Like, it's just ugh. This is just, don't worry, it's building structure to the downside. I mean, look, man, this is an awful chart, but we can always make it look good. It's breaking out, guys. Look, it's breaking out. It retested this as support. It built up a nice base on the highs here. Look at that. It's going to break out to new lows. Yeah. This thing looks awful. Absolutely awful. Most alts are probably going to look awful right now. Bitcoin dominance is doing pretty well. Maybe, in for a pullback soon. We'll see. 183 is the momentum pivot, and it is trading well below there. And let me uninvert my chart here so that we actually see how crappy this coin is. There we go. This is pressure down plus expansion. When looking at the daily, weekly, this is just, oh, wow. I mean, what's it like to bag hold from 2350 to 162? I mean, I guess we could go back and ask all the people that I was shorting the top against in Luna what it's like to have zero. But, I mean, this is garbage, and I don't want to look at it anymore. Give me something else to look at. I mean, back above 210, this thing can start turning its whole thing around. Below 210, it's down to the depths of shitcoin hell. Oh, we've been well aware of Energy Web Token for a while. All right, so made a new all-time low today. It's dumpster diving Sol. Okay, she wants Solana. Polkadot. I'm not looking at Chili's. Come on. All right, yeah, we can take a look at Sol. I mean, that's actually a project that's not totally dead yet. And it might have, some future. I mean, Energy Web Token has a future. It's just all downside. Watch, it becomes like the hottest altcoin in the next bull run. All right. I mean, I have not changed this chart since the last time this was requested on the daily here. Losing the 2233. I mean, realistically, it's sitting right on support right now. So around this downtrending support area, basically, if it can hold 2186, preferably $22, then I wouldn't be looking down further. I'd be looking for a low to try being set here. then back above 22.33. Then we're looking back to this failed run up here, and somewhere around 24 bucks, 23.75, 24 bucks, and then up. But right now, I mean, it's realistically below, 21.75 or so, below these wick lows here. We are looking to probably base out around 20 bucks or so. Starts to look pretty nasty below 19 though. That's a structure change. Right now it is trying to reverse and, this prolonged downtrend that was in, it's trying to reverse it, come back. You want to see it hold on a higher low basis and or at minimum consolidate above this 1734. For the momentum pivot, it's going to be 23.36. That's a little ways away. It's got to at minimum start putting in a low on the daily to go retest that. So back above 22.50, then it has a chance to go test that. But 23.36 is the daily. The 2-day is just turning down 24.21. Yeah, 3 days headed up 19.41. 4 days should be headed up as well, 19.05. 5 days at 17.96, so around that low. And the weekly is ugly. But yeah, so what I would say is if it can turn up and close this week above basically 20.90, 21 bucks, that would actually look okay. But it's likely going to play out a bearish divergence here, which might send it back to its current lows. If it goes lower than 17, if it goes lower than 17, the 1734, which is this close open, excuse me, and it got tagged perfectly, by the way. If it goes below there, it's back to 14 to 16 bucks for probably a prolonged period of time. If we were to take a look at this entire move up, let's go ahead and group these horizontals. I don't care what the name is. We'll call them HORZ. HORZ for horizontals. No other reason. And we just kind of fib this move and see where we are. Okay, so it bounced back to the 618. Rejected. It's losing the 50%. Bias is towards towards the 382 at minimum at $20.50. That's right around these highs. We just spoke of that. So yeah, that's right around these highs at the 382. Below there, we're looking back to run this low around the 272 at 1850 or so, and then it's the actual low. Now, if you want to take the downtrending move, oops, did I do it? I did it. All right, so bounced rejected right at the 50%, lost the 618. Yeah, I mean, it literally just ran right to the 50% and rejected. We can reverse this again, have a little bit more fun with fibs. And we can see that it's currently playing around the 618 of this current move up. If it does lose it, looks like 21 bucks is in the cards here. Decent order block candles over here. But ultimately, it's going to be back around the 382, somewhere around $20 to $20.50 or so. And of course, below there, that's fair game around the 272 at 1930, 1940 to about 1875 at this low. If that is lost, it's right back to the lows. Hey, go figure. Looks okay for now, as long as it's above 21 bucks. That's pretty much all I got for you here. Sol does not look great, but it doesn't look terrible. It's not like ETH. ETH looks pretty awful. And in fact, let's go ahead and take a look at ETH. Ugh. Looks awful. It's even losing whatever I had put on here before. Probably like a 15-minute chart or something. Yeah, so we can get what I was so this was back in on the 21st of September. I was marking this up. It did bounce very nicely, actually. That was that bounce. That was, basically the lows. This was the equivalent of the $26,000 area for Bitcoin, I believe, right? When was this? Yeah, right around that time. And it held that, bounced up, and just looks terrible. ETH does not look good, by the way. Just, in case you couldn't tell. Let's just get rid of all this crap on ETH. Yeah, this does not look great. This looks like a long form consolidation and maybe even a step back to below 1400. And if that doesn't hold up, it's 1300 is the name of the game again. Just looking at structure, that was a pretty nasty rejection at, the 1740-50 area, or whatever this high was. It was 1755. That was a pretty nasty rejection. The way it's consolidating and like lurching sideways, if it can just go sideways, there's some hope left for ETH to not drop below like 1500. Let's take a look. 1623 is not very exciting for upside on the daily pivot. What's the 2-day looking like? Oh, 1732. Playing out bearish divergence as well. 3-day is at 1578. It's possible it could avoid violating that pivot on the 3-day, but not looking great right now. 4-day is 1575, very close to that pivot on the 4-day. This right here, though, unless it reverses and bounces like we get a Wednesday and a Thursday reversal overnight here, then I would I'd still be looking down. 5-day is at 1586, close below that pivot, break the lows, not looking good. Yeah, the weekly is at 1600. So, if it loses this low, it's got room, to be quite honest, down to like 1376. That's not what you want to hear, but that's like the next big area out. I mean, you can give it 15. That's it. Like, it's got room to 1515. And then if you want to mark off the wicks, I would say below 1462, and things are toast. Warm, buttery toast. Yeah, and then you're looking at like 1420. I'd be looking back into, under 14, to be quite honest. But this is how things carve out lows long term. So if it can, kind of go sideways for a while, it might be able to carve out a low. Otherwise, pretty downside angled. I suspect that unless Bitcoin gets a really aggressive bounce, which, to be fair, it's getting a very nice bounce of $250 or so after a move down of like 1,000, I think, or a little less than 1,000. So, but if, Bitcoin, let's say Bitcoin sets in let's look at the 12-hour on Bitcoin, for instance. If we look at the 12-hour on Bitcoin and we say to ourselves, hey, oh shit, it's looking at trying to close below the lower second. That's not good, because The lower second standard deviation's at $27,000. That was the area it needed to hold. But in this case, maybe a little bit more downside, maybe to fill out this wick even. But I'd keep a close eye on the momentum pivot, which is also at $27,000. This is going to, of course, update later today. Probably somewhere in the upper 26 area. So 26.7, 26.8. And, that would be fairly close to where Bitcoin is trading now if it can remain in this area. Another thing to look for, possible bounces. This 4 hours saying that more likely, in about 10 minutes, it's likely that it could try. 26,733 is a momentum pivot. It's currently trading $10 below that, but it's getting a nice buyback on this particular 4-hour candle. So we got to see it build. If it can build up on the 4-hour and through and start turning that 12-hour, then Bitcoin's got a chance to test up further and possibly avoid disaster for itself and the altcoin market as well. And honestly, Bitcoin isn't in any kind of disastrous situation right now. Below, 24,750, then we're looking for much further down over time, especially if we see higher term time frame closes. But I'm not really enamored with looking too much further until we saw a higher term time frame close below that area. But yeah, nice move down, man. I'm happy about it. Finally, volatility after. There was periods in the highs here where it literally was dead on. We were getting no price movement on some exchanges with higher liquidity as well. So, but the 4-hour looks like it's trying to make a push here in the last 10 minutes or so, and we'll see what that. You'll just have to keep an eye on it and see what that will. We'll have to see what it brings here over the course of today's close. We might see a Wednesday into Thursday reversal. Who knows? Right? Maybe traditional markets hit a high, Dixie bounces, and Bitcoin bounces with it. Who knows? It's been that kind of weird bifurcation lately, which is why you still need the context of other markets, but you should always just evaluate the chart in front of you. Okay. Enough for me today. I'll get off my soapbox here. I will maybe read through the chat here one more time. All right. So 0 is the only target. I think we're talking about EWT at that point. TLM. Oh, God. God, you're comparing the worst of the worst here, guys. What's going on? Next week. What? Look at TLM? Oh, God. We might as well just look at it because I just read it. Yep. Yep, that's a slide. Just awful. Yeah, I remember when this thing hit like freaking $5.95. Now it's trading at less than a penny. Wow. It's log scale, so it doesn't look. It just looks like a slide. You're just gonna go. Yay! And then just ooh. Yep. Just a little bit of yay. Slide down the chart there. Slide to when you get below a penny, I mean, that's rough. You're at zero on your account balance, so I'm sure lots of people are really Cheryl caught the horrors reference. The CTSI. CTSI. Nope. I'm going to say the CTSI, and we'll just pretend that you were referencing the indicator. All right, so what else we got here? Oh, yeah. Apparently, Cheryl is well acquainted with all of the same garbage that you look at, Bobby. All right, so the way I show charts sounds so easy. It almost sounds fake. You got to study, man. I mean, all you got to do is look at the charts, and you got to make sure you understand trend, support and resistance, volatility, and momentum. I mean, that's the 4 key things. And is there a lot of subcategories under there? Absolutely. But the four keys to trading are trend, uptrend, downtrend. Trend reversals, understanding those, which is just a trend break and then, either higher highs, higher lows, or a trend break to the downside, and then, lower highs, lower lows. It's not too difficult. And then areas of historical price action, typically wicks and closes, are your support and resistance. And then volatility is how quickly price is moving. And that all creates momentum. And that's all there is to trading. It's not too difficult. I know people that I've taught the basics to that do just fine. Naked charts, no less. And they're not doing anything super special. So, let's see. Jedi, hello, sir. Still waiting for it to click? Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding, dude. Yeah. Jedi actually knows what he's talking about, but he psychs himself out by going way too deep on it. It's okay, though. All right, let's see. Art attack with Landy. Yeah, I'm not drawing some of the stuff that I used to draw when it was just you guys. This is not IRA rollover, chat. You can look it up. If you want to roll over an IRA, you should, I know how to do it, but you need to contact, if you don't know how to do it, you need to contact somebody who does. So just go look it up. Type in IRA rollover into Google, and it will give you all the information you need. Look, I do want to stress that I'm more than happy to answer questions, but if you got to ask every step for everything, then you're doing yourself a disservice. I'll answer, but you're doing yourself a disservice. You got to come to this kind of stuff with an approach of, I looked it up and here's where I got stuck. And when you get stuck, that's when you ask your question about it. One, it helps you learn what it is that you are not understanding. So I understand up to this point of this thing that I read or this thing that I looked at, but if you didn't look it up in the first place to see what it even was, well, I mean, generally speaking, if you asking about an IRA rollover, then you probably know what an IRA is, right? In this case, you want to go and take a look at IRA rollovers, see what they are, what it entails, and then ask me the question. That's how you're going to get something that's actually helpful for you. Otherwise, it's not going to be very helpful for me to answer a question like that. And the reason why I'm addressing this is because I see you have quite a few questions that are similar like this. They're very much like, what is this thing? Well, go look up what the thing is because you know part of it, right? You know what an IRA is. So go look at what an IRA rollover is, what it entails, right? And then if you have specific questions about that process, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Yeah. And if you don't know what any of these things are, then you should work with a financial professional. Right? If you got money in the market in any manner and you don't know what you're doing, then you don't just try to wing it. You get help. Let's see. Okay. So here's so somebody wanted me to this is not in the YouTube chat. Somebody wants me to look at the bond market real quick. So let's go ahead and extend this out for a moment. And yeah, I mean, this is 30-year yields did drop on Treasury, and they're currently down by quite a bit. So a 2.5% drop, a little over 2.5% drop on the 10-year, or I'm sorry, the 30-year. 20-year was 2.4% or so. Yeah, and then the 10-year is down about 1.85%. So we did also see the 2-year and 5-year. So the 2-year continued to the upside a little bit. 5-year dropped a bit. So we have we did have for a short period we had the 20 over the 2-year. And I think that was the only one. Now the 20 is the highest yield right now. Yeah. Is that what you wanted me to look at? Oh, you wanted me to see. Okay. Yeah, I can look at that. What the weekly is looking like for the 20? Sure. Let's go ahead and take a look. Weekly looks like it's trying to top out, but that doesn't mean anything until it's below at least for a 3-candle structure. It's somewhere below the lower first, or upper first rather. Lower first is all the way here. Upper first on the weekly is 4.73%. Yep. I turned DMs off, buddy. I've been getting assaulted by bots. So if you try to DM me on Twitter right now, you will not get a response. Yeah, you're gonna have to @ me, and if I have time, I'll try to answer the question. But yeah, unfortunately, I get nothing but like spam bots from exchanges in my DMs, and it literally blows my phone up. And I have not a very large following anywhere on social media, so let's take a look. Okay, so I mean the 10-year It's at 4.99%. So, I mean, it closes below there on Friday. It's going to be a shift to the downside. Monthly is still headed up 4.71%, but if it starts breaching it on the weekly coming into the monthly close, we're likely to see this cross down. You're not going to get data on a quarterly. Yeah. For the 30-year, yeah, down below 495. Weekly, it will be down below 4.79, which it's trading below right now as of today's candle. Monthly, still up above 5.66%. Quarterly, if the quarterly, so by end of year, if it closes below 4.81, it's pressure down. And, if we're to compare that to like the 2-year, 4.88% on the quarterly. Monthly is, headed back up, but in a pretty critical region, 4.77%. Of course, it's trading around 5% right now. Weekly's down below 5.07%. And daily's actually freaking looking like a bullish reset, to be quite honest, for the 2-year. Yep, bounce off the lower second. So it's looking like it might want to run back up into this topside area, especially if we can get back above that 5.07%, which is the weekly. So, right? That was the weekly pivot. Yeah, 5.07%. That's the daily basis. So if we can get back above there, it would also keep the weekly, or would turn the weekly back to the upside, and then we're looking for higher yield. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. Even I ran out the music. So we're going to have to restart that. You're more than welcome to listen to the ending jams here. Actually, you know what? We have a close on that 4-hour. So let's go ahead and take a look at it for Bitcoin. Momentum pivot is now 26,600. So if you can close the end of the day above 26.6, you'll see an initial cross to the upside. Initial cross is not a confirmed cross. Basically, what you want to see is a 4-hour low put in. It can get started with that on any 4-hour close back above this last wick high at 26,791. Or if it can close above the lower second on the 4-hour. If it can close above the lower second on the 4-hour here, about 26.6. Yeah, if it can close above the lower second and or around 26.6, then we will see an initial cross at close today. So something to be aware of, something to watch, especially keep an eye on that 12-hour as it relates to the 4-hour. So that's what I got for you today. And yeah, that's going to do it. You guys have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe, no matter where you are in the world. And I appreciate you guys for hanging out. And I will see you on Friday. Landy out. You guys could have told me the music wasn't actually playing for you. It wasn't going out to YouTube. That's okay. Enjoy some beats. and I will talk to you guys on Friday. Take care.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
CBR Street Gang, this is Almighty. Standing by, over.